Niccolò Machiavelli taught that the true battlefield of power lies not on open fields, but in the hidden corridors of influence. In The Prince, he warns that men are ungrateful, fickle, feigning, and dissembling, and that a ruler must guard against flatterers who cloak ambition in praise. Yet, even the greatest vigilance against obvious threats, rebels at the gate, open conspiracies, cannot defend you from the subtler machinations born in the hearts of those closest to you. Do you believe you command the game of power? You assume you can spot a traitor in your court, detect when loyalty falters, or sense when ambition crosses the line. Yet the deadliest threats are not overt rebellions or open conspiracies. They are the subtle currents of influence, the hidden manufactories of desire, the unseen strings that pull at your will. Machiavelli understood that princes fall by the foxes and lions they trust, and he would tell you directly, the deadliest schemes are not hatched in enemy camps but in your own court. While you strengthen your walls and train your armies, you must also sharpen your mind to discern the unseen strings of influence, the whisper campaigns of envy and the hidden manufactories of desire that seek to ensnare your will. Consider how often you have felt drained by a companion's praise, only to discover it was bait for manipulation. How often flattery carved a path into your confidence, so you performed ever more brilliantly until you performed yourself into a trap. Men change masters rapidly, Machiavelli writes, when they perceive that they either cannot satisfy him or that they may satisfy themselves better elsewhere. In that moment of disillusionment, you are exposed. Today we expose 6 profiles Machiavelli would recognize in any court. 6 types of men and women who undermine your sovereignty, not through force, but through cunning. We draw from The Prince and The Art of War to show you how to identify these figures and guard your dominion. And beware, you may discover traces of their stratagems within your own councils. 1. The flattering fox. At first, the fox flatters. He praises your brilliance, magnifies your victories, and convinces you that no foe can stand against you. Machiavelli cautions that flatterers are more dangerous than open enemies, for they feign clear-sightedness to deceive the prince. When a fox adores you, know that his devotion will turn to betrayal when a more flattering master appears. The fox's artifice runs deeper than mere flattery. He studies your temperament, learns your insecurities, and tailors every compliment to exploit your hidden needs. A casual remark about your foresight may seem innocuous, but when repeated, it plants the seed of ego that blinds you to criticism. He will praise your decisiveness one day and your compassion the next, ensuring you attribute every triumph and every humane gesture to his guidance. In truth, he collects the tokens of your gratitude like trophies, your praise, your loyalty, your trust, only to wield them against you when the winds of fortune shift. Machiavelli's warning: it is better to be feared than loved. Yet the fox knows that a well-placed compliment can secure both in a single breath. He will flatter you into believing you are invincible, so that when the hour of crisis arrives, you lower your guard in the false comfort of his devotion. Watch how he orchestrates his praise around your circle of advisors, contrasting his adoration of you with veiled disdain for others. In private, he may commend your strategic brilliance. In public, he will insinuate that your rivals lack vision. Thus, he positions himself as both your confidant and the indispensable bulwark against internal threats. When your allies grow wary, he reminds them how he alone has kept you apprised of their jealous design. He thrives in the gray area between loyalty and rivalry, forging alliances that serve his rise from the shadows. But the fox's greatest weapon is timing. He waits for moments when doubt or fatigue afflict you, after a costly battle, during a policy failure, or amid the loneliness that grips every ruler, and then he amplifies your fears with lavish praise. See, he murmurs, how the world trembles before your name, convincing you that only his counsel can maintain your triumph. Under this constant barrage, you come to view his counsel as the very air you breathe. until questioning him feels like treason. To guard against this predator, Machiavelli prescribes a simple yet ruthless remedy. Diversify your counsel and test each advisor's loyalty with controlled adversity. Introduce subtle trials. Assign a minor command to the fox and watch if he crumbles without the spotlight. Or propose an unpopular decision and observe whether he supports it out of principle or merely to curry favor. A true servant will endure hardship without wavering. A flattering fox will abandon you the moment his gilded promises lose their currency. The lesson is clear. Never mistake adulation for allegiance. A fox that flatters you today may sharpen his claws for tomorrow's feast. Keep your eyes open, your circle small, and never allow praise to drown out the voice of prudence. Only by smelling the fox's honeyed words as the trap they truly are, can you preserve the clarity and strength Machiavelli demands of every prince. The obsequious priest. This is the moralist who hides ambition behind piety. He whispers doctrines of virtue in your ear, even as he tightens chains of obligation around your conscience. Machiavelli warned against advisors who govern by forms of goodness, for they often conceal more cruelty than beasts of prey. The obsequious priest demands you live by his code, thereby binding your choices to his design. He cloaks his ambitions in sermons on humility and generosity, presenting every demand as a sacred duty rather than a political maneuver. He will praise your mercy when you pardon a dissident, then chastise you for perceived indulgence, subtly reminding you that true power lies in discipline, according to his moral code. Machiavelli notes that men in office abound more in hypocrisy than in simplicity, and the obsequious priest embodies this hypocrisy. He preaches self-denial while cultivating his own influence, convincing you that every step you take must pass through his spiritual filter. Watch how he weaves his doctrine into your policies. Charity becomes charity only if tithed through him. Justice is just only when judged by his flock. When you sign an edict, he ensures it carries a footnote of piety. When you consult your counsel, he positions himself as the voice of conscience. By demanding that your victories be sanctified in his chapel, he creates a debt of gratitude you cannot repay without compromising your autonomy. Rejecting his counsel seems like defying morality itself, and thus you remain tethered to his ambitions, believing you are serving a higher purpose. To counteract his subtle domination, Machiavelli would advise you to separate spiritual counsel from temporal governance. Honor his sincerity, but reserve final judgment for the cold counsel of state. Test his allegiance by requesting his blessing on a decision that contradicts his teachings. Does he support your sovereignty over his dogma, or does he scorn you for apostasy? In doing so, you reveal whether his piety is genuine or merely a gilded cage. Remember, a ruler who makes his conscience a hostage of another forfeits the very power he seeks to wield. 3. The silent conspirator. He speaks little, but his presence is heavy. Like a silent river under ice, he moves in secrecy, cultivating alliances and whispering doubts into eager ears. Machiavelli would liken him to secret poisons, invisible until too late. The silent conspirator fosters division by feeding half-truths and insinuations, then retreats into the shadows as factions arise. He never raises his voice, nor appears overtly ambitious. His power lies in the gaps he creates between you and your closest allies. Notice how he lingers at the threshold of meetings, nodding sagely as others speak, then later recounts a distorted version of events to those who are absent. A casual aside, "I'm not sure the general shares your vision," can seed discord so effectively that before you realize it, two of your most trusted captains are questioning each other's loyalty. Machiavelli reminds us that it is double pleasure to betray the one who loves us, and the silent conspirator exploits that pleasure by pitting affection against suspicion. He cultivates friendships in secret, offering small favors to rising courtiers in exchange for whispers of court sentiment. When fortune favors you, he withdraws, claiming neutrality, When misfortune strikes, he surfaces as your staunch supporter, his silence suddenly transformed into urgent counsel. In both cases, his absence or presence casts a longer shadow than any overt act of aggression. His true allegiance is never clear, and that ambiguity is his greatest weapon. To guard against such subterranean predators, Machiavelli prescribes constant surveillance combined with occasional transparency. Invite rivals to witness your private councils or rotate the composition of advisory bodies, so conspirators cannot rely on stable alliances. When rumors surface, address them directly. Summon the accused and the accuser, interrogate their claims under scrutiny, and expose the gaps in their stories. The conspirator fears the light of public inquiry far more than the lash of punishment. Cultivate a culture where loyalty is rewarded not only for victories but for honesty. Publicly commend those who bring you unwelcome truths, no matter how bitter, and demonstrate that silence in the face of misinformation is tantamount to betrayal. By inverting the conspirator's craft, making openness more valuable than stealth, you force him to abandon his cold stratagems or reveal himself in the very act he seeks to conceal. Machiavelli's counsel: fear is maintained by a dread of punishment which never fails. Let it be known that the silent poisons of rumor and suspicion will be met with swift investigations and public reckonings. Only then will the silent conspirator learn that beneath your calm exterior lies a vigilance as unyielding as ice, impenetrable to his hidden currents. 4. The puppet master. This strategist oversees your decisions, framing every choice as if it were yours. He plants ideas in your mind under the guise of counsel, then watches you enact his will. Machiavelli counsels the prince to choose advisors wisely, for one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Guard your prerogative by cross-examining your impulses. Ask, whose desire is this truly? He moves behind the throne, applauding your edicts as if inspired by your own genius. Yet each proclamation bears his fingerprint. Whether a trade treaty you champion or a military reform you extol, the puppet master studies your inclinations, gauges your values, and then frames proposals that mirror your desires. You believe every policy drips from your will, unaware that you are executing his stratagems. Machiavelli warns that there is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. The puppet master exploits this uncertainty. He wraps his innovations in your vision, ensuring you accept them as necessary progress rather than foreign imposition. Observe how he cushions controversy by suggesting minor, palatable reforms first, then escalate to grander schemes once you have tasted acquiescence. He will praise the prudence of testing a small levy on merchants, then praise again when you extend that levy into a sweeping tariff, always reinforcing that it was your idea all along. When dissent arises, he deflects blame onto those who raised objections, branding them resistant to innovation, while he remains your loyal advocate. In the end, your signature glows on policies whose full implications you never mastered. To guard against this covert puppeteer, Machiavelli prescribes rigorous self-audit. Before enacting any counsel, pause and trace its lineage. Map every conversation, every briefing, every offhand remark that led you there. Solicit alternative perspectives from advisors you trust to oppose his narratives. Demand clear cost-benefit analyses in writing, signed by each proposer. By rendering every proposal transparent, you deprive the puppet master of the fog he needs to operate. Remember, the prince who understands every thread of his tapestry cannot be made to walk a path woven by another's hand. 5. The smiling traitor. He stands by your side through triumphs, shares your table, but covets your seat. Machiavelli calls this man unchaste in his promises. Only a fool trusts a man whose lips are no sooner sealed than they repeat your secrets. To detect him, watch who rejoices most at your success and who remains when adversity strikes. He laughs at your victories with an enthusiasm that feels genuine, yet each laugh conceals a calculation. He measures your rising star against his own ambition. Notice how he praises your boldest moves, then quietly surveys the court for those who might benefit from your fall. In private, he offers counsel that flatters your courage. In secret, he spins stories of your growing arrogance. Machiavelli warns that the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. This traitor lives by that creed, bound to you only so long as your fortunes fuel his rise. When the winds change, he will be the first to withdraw his banner, offering excuses that seem contrite yet betray no real remorse. His smiles become thinner, his loyalty a fading echo. To unmask him, create trials of solidarity. Invite him to share the burden of a crisis. Observe whether he stands firm or slinks away when danger looms. True allies sweat alongside you in adversity. Smiling traitors vanish into the shadows, leaving only empty seats and broken vows. Never forget Machiavelli's maxim: better a daring enemy than a false friend. Vigilance, not affection, secures your throne. 6. The psychic vampire. Finally, there is the one who drains your energy without a sword or a plot. Under the guise of devotion, he demands endless attention, sympathy, and time, until you are too fatigued to defend your interests. Machiavelli observes that princes must avoid burdensome dependence, for men who depend too much on meager gifts become lazy and unfit. Learn to enforce boundaries as strictly as you enforce laws. Charity that undermines strength is a weakness in disguise. He cloaks his draining in feigned neediness, arriving with tales of woe that tug at your sympathy, and planting himself at your side until your resolve crumbles. Every conversation becomes an audition for your compassion. He recounts crises, real or invented, and watches as you expend hours extinguishing fires that never threatened your realm. Machiavelli reminds us that a wise prince ought to adopt such a course that his citizens will always, in every sort and kind of circumstance, have need of the state and of him, and then he will always find them faithful. The psychic vampire inverts this principle, making you need him instead. Watch for endless requests framed as loyalty checks, a late-night counsel that never ends, a private grievance that must be shared before dawn. As your energies drain, your judgments blur and your defenses fall. To counteract this parasite, schedule fixed audiences, short, purpose-driven meetings limited by decree, and assign trusted lieutenants to verify the vampire's claims. Reward delegation and refuse unbounded access to your time. By treating your attention as a precious commodity, you restore the balance of power. In Machiavelli's world, the sovereign who guards his vitality commands the realm. The one whose energies are siphoned becomes powerless. Now you hold Machiavelli's lens to spot these danger archetypes in your court and within yourself. His ultimate lesson: true power demands not only cunning toward others, but ruthless honesty toward your own impulses. Which of these profiles has infiltrated your circle? Which strategy have you unconsciously adopted? Leave a comment naming the figure you've encountered or the mask you've worn. Your insight may shield others from betrayal and steal your own. Rule: if this teaching sharpened your mind, subscribe to our channel for more hard-won lessons from the Prince and beyond. Like this video, turn on notifications, and keep forging your power with unwavering purpose. Remember Machiavelli's final counsel: he who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. Master these profiles, command your court, and be the prince no one can unseat. Now you have seen the faces of the 6 hidden predators who stalk every court and conversation. Remember, power rests not only in the sword at your side, but in the clarity of your mind, the discipline of your will, and the vigilance of your heart. Let Machiavelli's counsel be your shield. Distrust the honey of flattery, weigh the chains of piety, expose the currents of secret plots, guard your choices against hidden hands, test loyalty in adversity, and protect your energy as the greatest treasure. Only through ruthless self-awareness can you master others and yourself. Rise, prince or princess, and claim your sovereignty. Forge a counsel of truth, wield your time as an unsparing weapon, and bind every pledge with the steel of consequence. In doing so, you will become the architect of your own destiny, and no traitor, priest, fox, conspirator, puppeteer, or vampire will ever dim the radiance of your rule.